evening, everybody. Welcome to the Nick and Joe Show, folks. I'm Nick, he's Joe, and we're both in Central Command here at ThinkRadio.ca in the nation's capital of Ottawa, the heart of conservative talk show, or the heart of conservative online radio.
Okay, yeah, you got it.
I decided to end it there because I was going to make a hole bigger and bigger.
It wasn't so bad, but it's the the Think Radio Broadcast Center.
Is that what it is?
In the nation's capital.
Oh, all right. You see, you're going to have to write that script out for me.
I suppose. And we did a lot of work in here this afternoon in the studio.
We
have
did.
A nice, we always had a nice green screen, but it was kind of cumbersome having to move things around all the time. So we decided to find some green screen paint and paint a wall. Actually, the truth is, I cannot tell a lie. Nick did. But I supervised. I was very good at supervising.
He did an excellent job going back to his officer's training.
I was an excellent supervisor. And there it is. Anyway, welcome to the Nick and Joe Show, ladies and gentlemen.
That would be us.
I feel like I'm missing out on something when I don't bring us in, because I'm the one usually in the studio, Nick. But it's great to have you here. I mean, really.
Well, listen, I prefer to be here than pretty much anywhere right now.
And winter has finally arrived.
Now,
not that we didn't have cold weather and snow, but it hadn't really reached minus 20 yet.
No, it hasn't.
Or I should say dipped down to minus 20 yet.
Now, I have a pet peeve.
Nick's got a pet peeve.
And I want to vent it.
Okay.
I had to make a short trip before the show and acquire a very important piece of equipment for the show, otherwise known as my laptop, which I inadvertently left at my son's place. And while I'm driving, I'm coming out of his subdivision, and there's a guy walking his dog. Now, it's dark outside. Anywhere in this time zone, it's dark outside right now. And he's dressed head to toe in black. He's got a black and red checkered vest on the dog, and the only reason I saw them at all was he had a little flashing red light on the left-hand side of the dog, walking on the left-hand shoulder. So the flashing light is the furthest away from me. And that's the only reason I knew anything was there. Now, my wife has a very similar complaint. She drives one of our two daughters, who is still living at home, to work every morning diligently at 6:30. She leaves the house. So it's still dark this time of year. And she drives down to a place called Combermere, where my daughter works at a small manufacturing plant down there. They do herbs and tail. I'll give them a shameless plug, St. Francis Herb Farm. Anyway, she works there doing some cleaning and things like that. It's her first job. And every morning they drive by, it's the same set of people. And they're all dressed like there's one lady walking along, 6:30 in the morning. Now, she's on the right side of the road. She's facing traffic. But you can't see her because she's dressed in earth browns and dark clothing. The only reason they could see her was there was a slim band around one sleeve of reflective tape. Now, listen, for those of you who like to walk in the dim wee hours of the day, whether it be morning or night, or even at night, please put on some reflective clothing so we know you're there. It drives me crazy. Like, I don't want to hit anybody. I don't want to, have to swerve out of the way of in the last second move to try to keep from clocking somebody with my car. And my wife doesn't want to do it either. And I don't know a single driver that wants to go running around running down pedestrians. Okay. But pedestrians could really help their own cause if they would put on clothing that's reflective. I don't care if you look like a neon sign. Let us know you're there. I want you to get out and get the fresh air. I want you to have the exercise. But for crying out loud, please make it easy for us so we don't flatten you and then have to pick you out of the tire treads. That's my rant.
Or don't wear reflective gear so that we will remove you from the gene pool.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen, because I know it's going to happen sooner or later. I just don't want to be the shovel that does it.
And by the way, for you woke snowflakes out there, the word inadvertent means accidental.
Yes, it does.
So, inadvertent, accidental, without purpose, without intent, or something along those lines. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So,
I feel better.
You know, that we're an eventful couple of days. The inauguration of a new administration in Washington, finally. I hesitate to say that the Trump drama, and notice how I said drama, not psychodrama. The Trump drama has come to a close. Maybe. So we'll see. So, Nick, I don't know. Did you get a chance to listen or to see any of the Biden inauguration speech?
I heard some of it. I couldn't stomach much of it. I turned it on for a few minutes, turn it off, turn it on. It was same thing, just with different words. Turn it off. Every word the man says, he's like Trudeau to me. I can't stand to listen to him talk, because from my perspective, I don't think he means a word of it. This whole thing about, I heard him talking about how we can do great things if we just end the violence and come together and unify. He's not interested in any of that stuff.
Well, maybe he is. Give the guy the...
Well, you know what he means by that when he says it?
Well, I do. I have a pretty good idea what he means.
Okay, you go tell me what you think he means by that.
I don't think... Okay, so when these guys say we have to have unity, no violence, come together, let's all pull the wagon in the same direction, what they basically mean is, to conservatives, they're basically saying, shut up and do what we're telling you to do.
Exactly.
Because you don't know any better. And, you know, the truth is, I listened to some of the commentary after the speech was done, and I was kind of surprised because I was actually listening to Fox News Network, and I was driving and listening to the speech off and on, and because I kept getting interrupted by phone calls, interestingly enough. Anyway, when it was done, I listened to some of the analysis, and Chris Wallace, in particular, was very praising of the speech, as were a few other commentators that I would have considered to be conservative commentators. Anyway, the problem wasn't that it was a left-wing speech as opposed to a right-wing speech, or that it was liberal versus conservative. The problem I had with it was that it was over-the-top syrupy.
Oh, God.
There was very little substance in it, and I don't have a problem with a syrupy speech, for want of a better term. I don't have a problem with that. If you want to inspire people with cliches and, you know, metaphors and, you know, all of the rhetorical devices, have at it. Be my guest. You know, Abraham Lincoln was able to do the Gettysburg speech in, I don't know how many words it is. It's
700.
It's very few words. You know, you were talking last week, Nick, about the Churchill speech. Mm-hmm. I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat.
Yep.
Right? Which was a pretty short speech to the House of Commons, in England in 1940 when he first became, it was his first speech as Prime Minister to the House of Commons. So I don't have a problem with rhetoric. I don't have a problem with cliche. I don't have a problem with any of those, as I say, rhetorical devices.
But you know
what? Half an hour, 45 minutes of them. It was. How many more times do you have to invoke the idea of coming together? How many more times do you have to say we should all be unified? How many more times do you have to say this is America, our best days are ahead of us, or words to that effect? It was just, to me, it was over the top. With very little substance.
Well,
and
see,
one more thing. I'm going to interrupt you, Nick, because this is really important. Why I think that what they really mean is go along with us when they talk about being unified.
Right.
They don't want alternative views. They don't want diversity. They want conformity. And the reason I say that is because every single time Biden referred to unity and the need to come together and be respectful of one another, he coupled that with he juxtaposed it with an example of what he would say is right-wing extreme behavior. So in other words, it would be sort of like, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm not quoting exactly, it would be we all have to come together. There's no place for extremism in America. We all have to. Our greatest days are in front of us. Okay, but we have to stamp out a white supremacy. So it was kind of like, to me, these weren't even whistle calls, okay, or whatever dog whistles or whatever. These were right out explicit references to what conservatives, especially Trump supporters, have been accused of over and over and over, especially in the last few months. And the message for them was, get along by being quiet and just, doing what you're told to do. Follow the program.
The difference, though, when Churchill gave his blood, toil, tears, and sweat speech, yes, there was a lot of syrupiness in it. It was meant to motivate. It wasn't big on substance. It was just big on trying to stir the people, and it worked. But the reason it worked is because he followed it up with action. It wasn't just empty words. He meant that. He meant what he said, and he went out and followed it up with action. Like, can anybody honestly say that Winston Churchill did not then follow through on what he had said in that speech? In any of his speeches, you do your worst and we shall do our best. Well, what happened? He did exactly what he said he was going to do. That's when when you want to give an inspiring speech, the most inspiring speech comes from somebody who is actually in the trenches with you. It's not just from somebody on high looking down on the little peons saying, guess what, guys? We need you to work harder. You're the workhorse that's going in the back of the wagon to the meat shack if you don't work harder. They don't tell you that, but that's what happens. Okay, read Animal Farm. And I just get tired of this kind of nonsensical rhetoric that doesn't mean anything. When Reagan gave a speech, okay, he wasn't the greatest orator ever to come down the pike. He was no Winston Churchill, but he had a way of communicating over the head of the media to the people, and they got it. They knew that he was a man of substance and that he meant what he said, and he followed it up with action. Biden doesn't have anything in his record. Over 40 years in the Senate, not one bill proposed. What the heck was he doing?
Well, he did, in fairness, he did sponsor some bills.
Okay, and how successful were they?
Well, that depends.
And how many over 40 years?
I don't know.
It wasn't a lot.
But there were bills that he sponsored. But anyway, I'm not defending him. I
know. But this is why when I listen to people like this, it just makes my hair stand up. It's like listening to Trudeau and his endless platitudes that are meaningless, hollow, and empty. I can't handle it because I know he doesn't mean it. It's like they're hollowed out heads with pre-written speeches, and every president, prime minister, or world leader has their speeches pre-written, but they usually vet them first and make sure it's in line with what they believe. That's how come they sound sincere. Joe Biden, are you kidding?
Well, again, I'm prepared. Again, look, we don't have a dog in the hunt, okay?
I know, but it's
but I will say, because I do speech writing, I found it just a little bit too over the top with the rhetorical devices. It was as though whoever wrote this speech or whatever team was involved in writing this speech wanted to demonstrate how clever they were at the deployment of many of these devices. So it was I lost count of the number of